And welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily here at the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us late on a Wednesday evening. Hopefully you guys had some great days out there. A lot of great weather down here in the South today. But let's get to some baseball, shall we? With the 2025 season fast approaching and opening day just around the corner, we've already done the team previews. Every single team got their own day in the sun. Very happy to have been able to do that for all those different fan bases out there. But today I wanted to get into how they really stack up against one another. Specifically, how does their lineup stack up against each other? So, without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Alrighty, now the 2025 season is right around the corner. We've done each and everybody's preview. How do they stack up against everyone else? Well, we already know the cream of the crop at the top. There's like 5 or 6, maybe 7 teams that we could argue are probably the best in Major League Baseball. But how exactly do they rank? Let's get into that. We're going to go through each team, kind of rank them. You know, as we go through them, we'll probably start at the top, go through the bottom. Then when we get done with our list, we'll go back and kind of look over how things really stack up. So if you think you have the best lineup, now's the time to make a case for it. So once we get to your team, please let us know in the comment section what we should be looking at, why we should be viewing them higher than the other teams that we're talking about, and others. But welcome in Holly and Steven. As far as the headlines from around Major League Baseball, before we get into that, not too many headlines aside from a couple of news as far as injury concerns, that is. Adolis Garcia had the MRI come back, and it shows a very mild oblique strain for the Texas Rangers outfielder, even more mild than that of Wyatt Langford. There is still some caution around whether or not he'll be available for opening day, but the belief is that the Rangers will have him available. Now, the Texas Rangers, on the good news front, have had a great spring training from Emilio Teodo, one of their minor leaguers, probably number 4, I believe, according to MLB.com, in their prospect ranks, has been lights out for the Rangers so far. The question for him is, can he maintain that ability to keep the ball in the strike zone and avoid giving up those walks? That was his bugaboo down in minors last year, threw around 89, 90 innings last year with a great strikeout rate, but an absolutely incredible walk rate as well. So command is going to be the name of the game for him. Jack Leiter this offseason credits a conversation that he had late in the year with Matt Festa, who was DFA'd by the Texas Rangers late in the year, for a new way of pitching, a new two-seam fastball that he's featuring that causes more downward motion in it. Kind of acts a little bit like a sinker to some. Now, as far as Jack Leiter is concerned, he struggled last year with walks, command, much like Teodo, but so far in spring training, 5 1/3, one-run ball, and has only given up one walk, I believe, in that period of time. So good progress anyway for Jack Leiter. He is expected to start the season at AAA, but that new pitch that he's throwing could very well have him on the big league roster before the end of the month of April. Now, there are a few other things that we need to get into. The Baltimore Orioles' Gunnar Henderson is still out right now with intercostal strain right now. He felt some discomfort in his side whenever he was in the game in the Grapefruit League about a week ago now. The issue was expected to be minor, and he wasn't expected to miss much time. Well, it's been a week. It's still a lingering issue, and so they did further testing on it. They're going to give him a lot of time off here before the start of the season. Manager Brendan Hyde said that he doesn't expect this to be a long-term injury. However, they're not going to force the issue. If he's not ready, or at least close to it by opening day, then it's okay if he misses a day. It's just a day on the calendar, according to Brendan Hyde. Of course, all of us in the baseball world know every guy wants to be out there for opening day. I'm sure they'll try to get him there if they can. But if it shows that the healing really hasn't gone the way they had hoped, like it hasn't the past week, maybe they keep him out for a week or two into the season. Not a significant period of time. A couple of clubs that do have significant injuries, we've talked about quite a bit the last couple of days, the New York Yankees and the New York Mets. Still no big news as far as injury replacements that they could bring in. We'll see if they ultimately decide to bring a couple of options in as we get closer to the start of the season. One last bit of news anyway on Nolan Arenado. Again, no news is not exactly good news here for Nolan. He wants to be moved and be moved yesterday. That was the comments coming from him at the end of last season that he wanted out of there, and basically gave a list of teams he'd be willing to go to. Obviously, none of those teams have jumped at the opportunity, while there have been some significant injuries around the league. None of them have been to the level or to the positions of need that would require a team to possibly look at Nolan Arenado. Teams that might have had an injury that cropped up in spring training at, say, third base, first base, DH, something along those lines. Maybe he'd be a nice fill-in option there. Obviously, none of those injuries have really happened so far. Now, it looks like Jose Altuve for the Houston Astros will be playing in left field. Sounds like they're going to go with a youngster at third base, possibly even Cam Smith. And Isaac Paredes might be over there as the everyday second baseman for the Houston Astros. That seems to be the one team that's reached out for him at least twice so far this offseason, including one deal that was already agreed to and then nixed by Nolan Arenado himself. So Houston is one team that has registered interest in him twice. I wouldn't necessarily rule it out that they try to bring him in once again. But the fact that no other team has really reached out to the Cardinals about his availability tells you how unlikely it is that he moves at least before the season. Now, once we get into April, I'm sure plans will change. Teams will prop up out of nowhere that might not have been mentioned for Nolan Arenado, and then maybe he'll waive his no trade at that point. But Arenado has made it very clear at this point he is still unwilling to move it. So it doesn't sound like Nolan's going to go anywhere before opening day. Honestly, I doubt it within the first couple weeks of the season. Once we get close to the end of April and into early May, then we might have some new discussions around Nolan Arenado. But for the time being, sorry Cardinals fans, it looks like you're going to have Nolan Arenado taking up some of those youngsters at bats. That's something I thought they should have put a higher priority on moving earlier this offseason before free agents ultimately got signed and soaked up all those other spots that Arenado could have gone to because you would have had a cost certainty. You'd had other teams involved that normally wouldn't have been, and now they've waited too long and they're going to be stuck with him on their roster. He wants out, the club wants him gone, and not necessarily that they don't like him on the team. It's just that this team is trying to figure out what they have going into 2026, 2027, 2028, rather than what they're going to do in 2025. This is the team that's retooling, trying to see which pieces are going to fit for the long term. And Nolan Arenado, obviously on the backside of his career, no longer fits that timeline. So we'll see if they can come to a decision sometime soon, and hopefully they don't have to wait until the All-Star break or all the way until the deadline to get Nolan Arenado deal done. But I would give this specific transfer or the performance around Nolan Arenado I'd guess if I'm giving it a grade for the way the Cardinals have handled this whole thing, I'd probably give it an F. I mean, they just did not handle this from jump. I mean, they should have put a higher priority on trading him early this offseason. Same thing with Ryan Helsley as well, out of their bullpen. And instead, they decided, hey, these two guys will surely be in command. There's no way we would need to trade them, right now. We can go ahead and wait until spring training. Maybe an injury will pop up. And yes, that's one way of thinking. But why limit yourself to that type of a role? And to me, they kind of missed the boat here. Still plenty of time to get a deal done before the trading deadline. But come on, man. This season was supposed to be all about the young kids. And yes, Wilson Contreras moved over to first base. Because he didn't really fit well behind the plate anymore. They wanted to go with a different type of catcher, a better blocking catcher, better receiving catcher, and just a better performing catcher on the whole. Now, Contreras' bat still plays. That's why he takes the at-bats over there at Goldschmidt, and they got money committed to him for the future, and he does not have a positive trade value at all, even if you ate some of the money. Meanwhile, Nolan Arenado still provides at least decent defense over there at third base, could be transitioned over to first if necessary, or DH, and also still provides at least a decent bat. Is it as good as he was, say, with the Colorado Rockies or the beginning of his tenure with the Cardinals? No. But he's still a good veteran player that has shown the ability to know how to win there in St. Louis, and a team would really like to have that experience on their roster. At least that's the thought process there. But unfortunately, no, was not the case there. But to welcome in Holly and Steven, Nolan ain't going anywhere. They don't want him. He should expand his list. I agree on all points there. I think the team botched this one. I think Nolan botched this one. He should have just accepted one of the two times the Houston Astros were looking to bring him in. And at this point, I wonder if they're a little gun shy as far as offering a third time in earnest to try to bring him in. Holly, Christian Walker scratched today due to oblique soreness. More and more oblique injuries, my goodness. I mean, he is the answer to all the Astros' prayers over there at first base the last, 3-4 years? And if he has to miss the start of the season, that's a tough break, considering they're without Alex Bregman, they're without Justin Verlander, they're without Kyle Tucker, and others from this ball club. Now, sure, they bring in Isaac Paredes, and they bring in Christian Walker, but if Walker starts the season on the IL, I got to wonder even further about where this lineup is headed in the 2025 season. All right, let's get into the rankings of how we see these lineups really stacking up against one another. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so we'll start anyway with the American League. We'll go all the way from the Athletics all the way on down. So where do these teams ultimately rank? There we go. We'll start with the Athletics. Here we go. Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, J.J. Bleday, Shea Langeliers, Soderstrom, Geloff, Brown, Urshela, and Wilson, with a bench of Andujar, Ruiz, Urias, and Pareda. We'll go ahead and put them on the board first just because they're the first team. Next, who do we have? The Baltimore Orioles. This is obviously a better lineup to me than the Athletics. How much better? Well, you got Gunnar Henderson, 2023 Rookie of the Year. Very ascending player, possibly an MVP candidate this year. Adley Rutschman, to me, an MVP candidate. Cedric Mullins, I think, is more of a platoon player. I don't like him this high in the lineup, honestly. I would rather go with somebody else more proven in that spot, even like a Mountcastle or somebody along those lines. I think Mullins is best as a defender at this point. I'd rather even have Westberg in that spot, or Cowser, O'Hearn, pretty much any of these guys above Mullins. Mullins, I think, should be in the bottom three guys here. But overall, this is a really solid lineup. They do have some guys in the minors that they could turn to. And on the bench, Urias, Sanchez, Hurstead, and Liriano as well. Let's go ahead and back over to our page here. To me, again, Orioles are a little bit in front, so we put them ahead of the A's. Let's go to the next club here. Boston. Where exactly do they rank? Well, the addition of Alex Bregman, I think, really lifts this lineup up quite a bit. Are they to the level of the Baltimore Orioles? I would say not quite. I would say they're better than the A's, but they're not quite better than the Orioles. The reason being is I love the depth that the Orioles possess a little bit more. Now, don't get me wrong. Yoshida's bat could really come around. Story's bat could get a little bit better. And then all of the young talent that they're going to be having coming through the minors, once those guys get up there, they'll be a better lineup. But right now, I can't put them in there on opening day for 2025. So to me, Red Sox slide in the middle here between the A's and Orioles. All right, next team. White Sox, I think this lineup is probably one of the most limited in the entire league, obviously beneath all of these options. No use really discussing this one. It's pretty obvious. If you're a White Sox fan, sorry, you're just not a good team at this point offensively, at least compared to these other ball clubs that we have listed above. All right, the Guardians, what are we going to put them at? I like Kwan, love Ramirez. Manzardo had a nice year, or at least could be a nice piece for them. See, Carlos Santana, a little bit of a downgrade for this lineup. Like Lane Thomas out there as well. But again, not a whole lot as you go down in this lineup here. Honestly, I'm debating whether or not putting them above the A's or below the A's. That's my dilemma here. So if I'm putting them in my order, I put them for sure above the White Sox. Definitely below the Red Sox. The question is, are they better than the A's? Kwan and Rodriguez at the top. They have Rooker, Butler over there in Oakland or Sacramento anyway now. Offensively, I'm going to give the slight nod to the A's. I'm going to go ahead and put the Guardians below the Athletics offensively. All right, let's keep this thing going here. The Tigers, where do they rank going into the 2025 season? Again, we're basing it off of opening day rosters for 2025, not as to what they will do after a big trade, like if they decide to go after Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at the deadline or anything like that, but just entering the 2025 season, how do these teams stack up? Mark, welcome in. Dodgers or Rangers, one or the other, and the other two. We'll get into those two as we go through this list here. Tigers, for me, Gleyber Torres, Riley Green, Perez, Carpenter, Keith, Young. A lot of youth in there, though. I wonder if an Alex Bregman would have lifted them above the Athletics as well. I'm not sure I can put this team above the A's either. Are they better than the Guardians? Ramirez is a really good piece. Colt Keith has played well. Torres is a good offensive player, not a better defensive player, obviously. Welcome in, Paranormal. Any news on the Yankees? Obviously, just the injury news that we've been discussing the last couple of days. Luis Gil out for about a month anyway. Santana going to be out at least a month. And they could very well be starting the season behind the 8-ball. In fact, they were my preseason or spring training, a team to come out of the American League, or at least out of the or to the ALCS anyway. And I don't think they're in line to win the division if those injuries are as significant as expected. I think they'll start the season out of first place, and I think the other teams in the division are not going to go anywhere. And so just missing a couple of those key wins in April could really cost them the division crown once we get to the end of the season. Yes, it's a 162-game season, but you got to factor in every single bit of this. Maybe the Orioles never do have that primetime pitcher, the number one ace on their staff. Maybe the Red Sox aren't quite ready for the bright lights, and they falter a little bit. But I think the Yankees, with the injuries that they've had now, while they have the replacement there with Stroman in place of Gil, the lineup is really my bigger question with the loss of Juan Soto, and now you lose Stanton for at least a month. I wonder about the long-term viability of that lineup without them getting another impact bat this offseason, and now you're without another big bat in that lineup. I wonder just how much offensively they will be suffering without those big cogs there. But as far as the Tigers, I can't put them above the Guardians because of Ramirez, so I have to put them after the Guardians, so I put the Tigers right here. All right, let's keep this going for the American League side at least and see where we're at. Houston had a lot of changes this offseason, but they're still a very potent offensive team. I certainly put them above the A's, Guardians, Tigers, and White Sox. Red Sox, that's where it gets a little interesting to me. I think Bregman does elevate them. I think they have Devers and so forth, but you're talking Altuve, Paredes, and the biggest bat to me, Yordan Alvarez. Love Christian Walker over there at first base. Graded out as the best first baseman last year in the league. and I'm excited about his availability there. Now, of course, you mentioned the injury. Hopefully, he doesn't miss much time, but entering 2025, I'm going to go ahead for now until we find out more news about that injury, how much he's going to miss, or if he's going to miss anything, that I still put them a little bit above the Red Sox for me. Are they better than the Orioles? No. I think the Astros have fallen a little bit offensively, but they're still a good team. So I'm going to go ahead and put them offensively right behind the Orioles so far. Let's go on to the next one here. The Royals, where do they stack up? Now, they're going to be going with more of a contact approach. They're not going to be hitting homers. But you do have Bobby Witt in there. Sal Perez is still there. India is now the big addition offensively. But I'm not really expecting much out of Renfroe, Melendez, Garcia, Isbel, their bench, Furman, Lofton, Blanco, Velasquez. I'm not expecting much out of anybody of those pieces there. So offensively, they're certainly behind the Guardians. Would I say they're behind the Tigers? That's a tough one because Bobby Witt is a better player than anything the Tigers have offensively. I love the addition of India for that lineup. And for the Tigers, I mean, you're looking Gleyber Torres, Riley Green, Colt Keith as some of your best players there, at least offensively. Yeah, I'm going to put the Royals ahead of the Tigers offensively, mainly because of Bobby Witt. I don't really like the back half of this lineup, but again, Bobby Witt, I just think elevates them a hair above the Tigers based on that high-level performance there. Los Angeles Angels, not a competitive team, but where does the lineup stack up? Trout, Rengifo, Ward, Soler, Moncada, Ohapi, Shanuel, Odell, and Newman, Bench, Darno, Davis, Anderson, and Moniak. I think Moniak's going to get a fair amount of playing time this year. As far as the lineup, better than the White Sox, certainly. I'll say they're better than the Tigers, even with or without Mike Trout. Royals, I think they're a shade below the Royals. So I'll go ahead and put the offense for the Angels beneath the Royals. All right, let's see here. Minnesota, where do we going to put them? A team that didn't add much this offseason. Still has a pretty good lineup overall. Wallner taking over as their leadoff hitter this year. Correa, Buxton. Larnach, love Lewis there if he can stay healthy. Jeffers a pretty good catcher back there offensively as well. Willie Castro, we'll see if he finishes the season with this ball club. Ty France, kind of a net negative for me offensively. I think he'll have a nice rebound season, but I'm not expecting much. And then Brooks Lee, it doesn't sound like they're going to give too much time to, at least to begin the year. Sounds like it's going to be Edouard Julien. And then a bench where Jose Miranda is coming off your bench there. That's a solid offense. Are they better than the Orioles? No. Astros, no. Red Sox, closer. A's, that's darn close. Might be a little bit above the A's. Guardians, I'd say they're better than the Guardians. Royce Lewis, Carlos Correa, Buxton. I think all those pieces are better than what the Guardians have there. The A's, I think they're probably a little bit above the A's. So for me, offensively, at least to start the year when healthy, entering 2025, since all their pieces are healthy, I got to put them above the A's. Now again, this is not factoring in injuries or anything like that, just how these lineups really stack up entering the 2025 season. And I like the way the Twins stack up. Do I think they'll end up being better than the other offenses? Probably not because of injury. I think Royce Lewis probably misses some time due to injury. Same thing with Correa, definitely with Buxton. Will the young guys really latch on at the big league level and have immediate success? Those are definitely some questions there. But I'd say for right now, I'd put the Twins above the A's offensively. Mainly because of Lewis and Correa. I just think those two really elevate what they have offensively. And they have a really nice group of guys that 1 through 7 can give you some fits. And then they have a couple of guys on the bench that they can turn to if they do have some of those injuries. For the Yankees, now this one's going to get interesting here. We got a lot of Yankees fans with us. Chisholm, Judge, Bellinger, Goldschmidt, Wells, Volpe, Rice, Dominguez, and Cabrera. Now remember, you don't have Stanton to start the year. For the bench, you got Alex Jackson, according to Fangraphs, DJ LeMahieu, Peraza, and Trent Grisham. A couple of guys, I'm sure, in the minors that they might utilize. But opening day roster, Judge, obviously, the centerpiece. Bellinger hitting behind him. This is a good lineup. It's nothing to, wag a finger at. They are still a good lineup even without Soto, even without Stanton being healthy. Are they better than the Angels? I would say yes. Are they better than the Royals? I would say yes. Guardians? Yes. A's? Yes. Twins? Because of Aaron Judge, I'll say yes. Red Sox? I think that's where they fall just a little bit short. So I'll say the Yankees lineup falls beneath the Red Sox. Entering the 2025 season, of course. Seattle, where do they stack up on the American League side? I'm pitching around Judge all day. Bellinger and Goldschmidt don't scare me. Kind of my thoughts as well. That lineup, really doesn't have much protection in it without Soto, without Stanton in that lineup. And so I wouldn't, if I'm pitching to that team and I'm, trying to figure out how to navigate through that lineup, the one guy I'm not going to let beat me is Aaron Judge. And if the other 8 guys beat me, so be it. But I ain't letting Aaron Judge have a field day on me. That's for dang sure. All right, so where do the Seattle Mariners rank? Now remember, this offense has been very anemic, and Julio Rodriguez is a very streaky hitter, hit a couple home runs today. A lot of the Mariner fans were upset about that because they wanted to be able to watch the game and were unable to because the Royals had decided not to televise that game, at least their spring training of it. Robles, Rodriguez, Raleigh, Arozarena, Rayleigh, Haniger, Crawford, Polanco, and more. Not better than the Orioles, Astros, Red Sox, Yankees, Twins, and A's. I think we can say that fairly confidently. Are they better than the Guardians? I would say no. Better than the Royals? I would say no. Better than the Angels? I would say no. Better than the Tigers is where it gets interesting. The top-end talent is there, but again, the streakiness really does worry me. Do they have a better offense than the Tigers? I'm on the fence on this one. They're definitely better than the White Sox. That ain't up for debate. Haniger could have a bounce-back year, I suppose. Raleigh is a very good catcher overall, and even though I say Rodriguez is streaky, he has the ability to carry a team for 2 months on one of those hot streaks. Robles has been very good for them. Mitch Garver is probably going to have a better bounce-back year. They did bring in Solano to help out this offense as well. But are they better than the Detroit Tigers? Tigers, you're looking Torres, you're looking Keith, you're looking Carpenter, Jace Young. I would say the higher end pieces of the Mariners are a little better. Raleigh and Rodriguez. But I'd say the overall depth of their lineup is much better there in Detroit. So it's kind of a grab bag. Which would I rather go with during the season? I'd probably take the Tigers, honestly. I think they'll probably finish the year higher. But I think entering the season, I'd still lean Tigers just because their overall 1 through 9 is a little bit better offensively. Mariners fall beneath the Tigers there. All right, let's wrap up the American League here. Final 3 teams on the AL side. Tampa Bay Rays, where do they stack up? Diaz, Lowe, Caminero, Laos, Jansen, Morel, Aranda, DeLuca, and Walls. Roosevelt, Caballero, Palacios, and Eloy Jimenez. They have some good options 1 through 5. I think Junior Caminero is going to be a beast, but hasn't proven it yet at the big league level. Had a great winter ball, of course. We showed you the home run he hit in the top of the 9th live here. Let's see here. Where would I put the Rays? Better than the Angels, I think, is where you get interesting. Better than the Royals and Guardians. To me, these teams are all very, very close. A's, Guardians, Royals, Angels, Tigers are all fairly close to me. If I'm looking at this roster, I think Caminero right now isn't a proven commodity, and so I can't count on that yet. Diaz is a known quantity, Lau and Lowe. I think because we don't know what Caminero is going to be to start the year, I'd probably have to put him behind the Royals probably. Because that 6 through 9 leaves me a lot of worry there. They do have a couple of guys that will be there pretty soon as well. But for right now, I think I got to put them after the Royals. And I think I will. I think the Rays stack up just a pinch better than the Angels when they're right. All right, Texas. Where does this lineup really rank? Simeon, Seager, Langford, Peterson, Garcia, Young, Carter, Berger, Heim. Now, this was an offense that had a down year. But you're still looking. Corey Seager, one of the 5 best hitters in all of baseball, in my opinion. Langford, I think, could be there by the end of the year, but I think he's still a very good, solid player for you. Jock Peterson, a highly productive bat. Simeon had a down year, but still one of the best second basemen offensively and defensively in the game. Adolis Garcia, injured last year, still had a decent year for him, but nowhere near what we expect from El Bombi. Had a mild oblique strain so far, but he expects to be ready right at or very close to the beginning of the season. Wyatt Langford expects to be an opening day roster as well. Carter is healthy. I think Josh Young being healthy really elevates this lineup for me. So looking back at where we're going to rank this team, this is one that's going to go towards the top. We'll go ahead and skip all these lower teams here, but Athletics, certainly better. Twins, Rangers are certainly better. Yankees, I'd say the 1 through 9 is significantly better for Texas, that's for sure. I do love Aaron Judge, but almost on the same level that I love Corey Seager, so it's kind of a wash there. Bellinger versus Langford. Goldschmidt versus Peterson. Volpe versus Young. Dominguez versus Berger. I'd say it's darn close, but I'd give the edge to the Rangers. Over the Red Sox, Devers, Bregman, Cassis, Yoshida. If the rookies were up a little bit higher, I'd probably put them above, but right now they're not. So I'd put the Rangers a pinch above them. As far as the Astros, Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Paredes, Walker. I think they have a really good 1 through 5. Diaz is there still, but I wonder about their 6 through 9. For the Rangers, they certainly have a better 1 through 9 for sure. Alvarez and Seager kind of your 1A, 1B. I'd probably put Alvarez a hair above Seager, and I mean a hair. Altuve is still a good offensive player. Defense leaves a lot to be desired. If I was comparing them head-to-head, Langford and Altuve, because they're playing the same position now, I'd probably give the nod. I'd give the nod slightly to Altuve based off of, track record and things they've proven so far. But I wouldn't put Langford out of, being able to conquer that matchup one-on-one as the year goes along. I just like the depth the Rangers have top to bottom. And they have the bench to go to one of their best, I'd take that back. Their best performing offensive player last year isn't even in this lineup that we're mentioning here in Josh Smith. So they have the depth. Astros really don't. And that's why I'm going to go towards the Rangers. Orioles and Rangers. Now, this was getting kind of interesting because I do love Adley Rutschman. Does give you a real ace up your sleeve there if you're the Orioles. Mullins, one of the few weak spots in that lineup to me. O'Hearn, Mountcastle, Holiday, Henderson. I think you have 3 legit great players, 2 possible MVP candidates on that roster already. And because of the elevation of Henderson already and Langford hasn't quite reached that height yet, I think I'm going to have to put the Orioles a pinch above the Rangers offensively. So to me, the Rangers would slot in there at the number 2 spot behind the Orioles on the AL side. Last team here is Toronto, of course. How do they rank with their lineup? Bichette, Guerrero, Santander, Springer, Varsho, Kirk, Jimenez, Clement, and Luperfido. Bench, Straw, Schneider, Wagner, Heineman. It's not a bad offensive lineup, I will say that, but it's not a very great one either. A lot of underperforming assets, distressed assets on this team that may not be there in 26. But we're here to judge the roster for opening day 2025. Bichette had a down year last year, so you got to factor that in. Guerrero, still a great player in his prime. Anthony Santander, a great offensive year last year for Baltimore. I imagine he'll post similar numbers this year. Springer, an aging player, but still productive. Varsho, a better defender than an offensive piece. Kirk had a down year offensively. Jimenez hasn't been a good offensive piece for a minute. So where does this Blue Jays team rank? To me, definitely below the Yankees. Probably below the Twins. I'd say probably a pinch better than the A's as currently constructed. So go ahead and put the Blue Jays in here, kind of middle of the pack on the American League side. So there's your AL ranks. Not too bad. Let's do the National League. We'll start with the Diamondbacks. Carroll, Marte, Naylor, love the addition there. Gurriel, McCarthy, Suarez, Pavin Smith, Moreno, and Perdomo. A bench, Kessinger, Grichuk, Thomas, and Herrera with a couple other younger pieces coming as well. Overall, I like this lineup pretty well. How does this one stack up? Am I going to do start and rotation rankings? Yes, that will be tomorrow night. We will do that one tomorrow night. I'd go ahead and put the Diamondbacks. Carroll, Marte, Naylor, and Gurriel, all really good offensive pieces. Moreno had some struggles last year, but they're still a good ball club. I'd probably put them a hair above the Guardians. I'd probably put them above the A's. They're right there with the Blue Jays and Twins, though, in my opinion. I lean the Twins. Then I lean the Diamondbacks. And then I lean the Blue Jays. So after the Twins, we'll put the Diamondbacks. Yeah, if I remember how to spell. All right. Let's do the Braves. Now, this one is a really good team. I like the way they've got everybody locked up here, and they're a good lineup, and I think they solved a lot of their issues already. Cracked rib for Sean Murphy. Ouch. Ronald Acuna, out. Ouch. But look at that top six. That's probably one of the best top sixes in the game. And I think the way Olsen closed the year last year, very, very strong. Ozuna was a great player last year. I think he finished like 4th in MVP voting last year. Riley had a down start to the year last year and kind of tuned it up. Profar was pretty solid from start to finish. But with this roster currently, without Acuna and without Murphy, going to ding them a little bit without those two. I'd still put them above the Diamondbacks offensively. Certainly above the Twins. Better than the Yankees. It's a really good lineup. Judge probably the better offensive piece, but I'd say the Braves are better lineup. Red Sox gets a little closer here. I would still lean Braves. Astros. Alvarez probably the best player out of that group. But I'd probably put, 4 of those Braves before we get to another Houston Astros player like Jose Altuve. I'd probably put Riley above. I'd put Olsen above. I'd put Ozuna above. I'd put Albies above. Well, I'd put Albies close. I might put Altuve above Albies. But either way, still 3 Braves before you get to the next Astro. And I don't think the distance between Alvarez and either one of Olsen or Ozuna or Riley would be that much. But I do think the depth is what really works in the favor here of the Braves. So I'm going to go ahead and say the Braves are a pinch better. Are they better than the Rangers? Again, same kind of argument there with Alvarez and Seager. I'd lean Seager. Again, just by a hair. The Rangers probably a very similar lineup, very top-heavy, or as far as the 1 through 6. The 7, 8, 9 is where you have your questions. But again, I just love the depth they have. Meanwhile, the Braves just don't have that depth. And so I'd lean the Rangers. So I'll put the Braves in there at the 3 spot so far. Highest rated National League team so far. Let's keep it going. Chicago Cubs. Again, it's based off of where they're going to start their season, not who's coming off of the injured list, not how they're going to make a trade at the deadline, not what other pieces they have coming from their minor leagues. What they're going to start opening day with is what we're ranking these as. Ian Happ, Tucker, Suzuki, Bush, Swanson, Horner, Crow, Armstrong, Shaw, and Amaya, with a bench of Justin Turner, Carson Kelly, John Birdie, and Vidal Brujan. It's a pretty solid bench, I will say that. Better than the Mariners, certainly. Better than the Angels, yeah. Better than the Rays, yes. Guardians, yes. Blue Jays, that gets close right there. Blue Jays and Diamondbacks. A couple of unproven guys, and I think we're going to see some negative regression out of Bush. Suzuki is a decent player for them. It gets really close in that mix, though. They're all so very similar to me. There's not much hair splitting. Honestly, I could flip any one of those teams right in the middle there. I'll go ahead and put them, because of Tucker, do I put them above the A's? I think I do. Oops. I'll put them below the Blue Jays, though, because I just don't think they're quite that good offensively. I think it'll be different once we get to the trade deadline. But for right now, I'll put the Cubs behind the Blue Jays. All right, the Reds, where do they stack up here? Very young team here. Friedel McLean, question if he can stay healthy, of course. De La Cruz, Stevenson, Lux, Hayes, Fraley, Candelario, and Benson. Honestly, I like the Royals lineup a little bit better, even though it's top-heavy with Bobby Witt. But I'd still lean the Reds offensively out of that group. They have a couple of bench guys that they can go to: Encarnacion Strand, Espinal, Fairchild, and Trevino. I'd probably lean the way of the Reds. Guardians, I'd still probably lean the way of the Reds. The A's get closer. Cubs, I'd say, are right there. Blue Jays, I think, are right there. Another one you can kind of throw right in this mix here. I just think the Cubs need one more bat, so I can't put them above or below the Cubs. So I put the Reds here below the Blue Jays. But it's close. The Rockies, another bad team this year, not expecting much. Are they better than the White Sox? I'd say with McCann, Tovar, Estrada, and Jones, I would say yes. Are they better than, who's the second worst team so far? The Mariners? I'd say the Mariners have more than the Rockies, so we'll go ahead and put the Rockies above the White Sox. The Dodgers, this is kind of everybody's number one. Let's look at their lineup, though. Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, MVP caliber, MVP caliber, MVP caliber. Teoscar Hernandez, great fit. Will Smith had a down year offensively, but could be a nice bounce-back candidate. Max Muncy still doing things. Conforto, Edman, Kim, bench, Barnes, Rojas, Taylor, and Hernandez. Again, it's about entering the 2025 season. And Ohtani will be healthy enough to still swing a bat. In fact, his first swing of spring training was a home run. But this is a very good lineup. Not going to waste your time. They're certainly better than the Diamondbacks, Twins. I'd say they're better than the Yankees. Red Sox, I'd say they're a little better. Astros, I'd say they're a little better. Braves, that top-end talent is that good. I'd say they're a little better. Rangers, that top-end talent, again, is really dang good. The back end of that lineup might catch up to him a little bit, but Edman was a great performer for them last year. Orioles, honestly, this might be the number one offense to me. In fact, I think I'll put them above the Orioles. Dodgers claim the number one spot so far. All right, let's keep it going here. The Marlins, obviously not a great team offensively, counting on a bunch of young guys. Are they better than the White Sox? Debatable. I would say they're better, though. Rockies, I would probably say they're a little worse than the Rockies. So congratulations, Rockies. You move up a spot. Marlins take over the second worst. Let's keep it going. The Brewers were a very good offensive team with a lot of rookies in the lineup. They're going to be due for some sophomore slumps, if you will. William Contreras, big cog in that lineup. Yelich has been good the last year or so since he's been healthier, but injuries again still continue to plague him. A couple of good prospects coming. Durbin they're going to have. Canna, good veteran mix. All right, let's look at our list here. We'll start at the bottom. Better than the White Sox, definitely. Marlins, yes. Rockies, yes. Mariners, yes. Tigers, yes. Angels. I lean yes, but I'm not sure. The Rays, I lean no. I don't know, man. They're right in this mix. Guardians, Royals, Rays, Angels. Somewhere in that mix, I think, is where this team falls offensively. And I think those guys are going to be better in the long run than this low in the rankings. But right now, they're still very young and relatively unproven. I don't know. I'd say they're better talent overall than what the A's have, but the A's are pretty solid offensively right now. But I think I'll put the Brewers just slightly above them. Are they better than the Cubs? Probably not. So I'll go ahead and put the Brewers right in this mix. All right, let's do the Mets. Again, they're going to be without Magic Oliver the entire year, but they do bring back Alonso. They bring in Soto. 1 and 2 MVP caliber. Alonso very good. Nimmo very good. Vientos a good offensive player. Winker had a good year last year. McNeil and Jose Siri. A bench, Torrens, Acuna, Marte, and Taylor with other pieces coming, of course. But entering 2025 season, where do we set this Mets team up? Better than the Brewers? Certainly. Better than the Blue Jays? Yes. Twins? Yes. Yankees? I would lean yes. Red Sox? I lean yes. Pardon me. Been an exhausting day trying to keep up with everything, make videos work, and get ready for the NHL trade deadline on Friday. My apologies, everybody, but let's keep this thing going here. Mets, I'll put above the Yankees. Red Sox, Astros, I think, is where they're going to start to falter. Alvarez and Soto, to me, wash out. Lindor is certainly a better second banana there. Oof. I would probably lean the Mets out of those two, honestly. Are they better than the Braves offensively? They have a better higher end piece in Soto. On the Brave side, you don't count Acuna yet. You would have to count Riley, Olsen, and Ozuna. And I would probably lean the Mets. Versus the Rangers. Seager, Soto, wash. Lindor, probably the advantage there. The depth here is not bad for the Mets, though. The Mets are a pretty good lineup. That bench does worry me a little bit compared to the bench of, say, the Rangers. Not saying that they have a bad bench. I'm just saying comparing the two, Rangers certainly have the better. I'd probably lean Rangers out of those two, but it's close. So I'll put the Mets in here behind the Rangers, number 4. All right, let's keep it going here. What's the next one? Philadelphia Phillies. Really good pitching staff. How does their lineup compare? Trey Turner had a down year for him offensively. Still a decent player overall last year at a 3 WAR, but he's a better player than that. Schwarber moves. He's the DH there. Harper, of course. Bohm, Castellanos, Kepler, Real Muto, Stott, and Marsh. Overall, that's a really solid lineup. Better than the A's, I would say yes. Better than the Reds, I would lean yes. Better than the Diamondbacks, I would lean yes again. Twins, yes. Yankees, I would lean yes, because Harper and Judge to me wash out. Trey Turner, Bohm, combination there at the top, I think, equals out there. Red Sox, Devers, Bregman, Casas, Yoshida, Duran, Abreu. This is a more proven lineup. Sophomores, again, there for the Red Sox. More young guys coming, but again, we're basing it off of the 2025 start, the opening day roster. I would probably lean with this roster. I'd probably put them above the Red Sox. But I'm leaning below the Astros. I'm definitely leaning below the Braves. Astros, Altuve, Alvarez, Paredes, Walker, Diaz. I just like the depth here a little bit better. But I think the Braves have their number a little bit offensively, the way their lineup is set up. So I'll put them just beneath the Braves. Pittsburgh, not a very good offensive team. Pham, Reynolds, O'Neill, McCutchen, Bart, Derek Hall, Gonzalez, Hayes, IKF, Triolo, Frazier, Palacios, and Rodriguez. Couple of depth guys, but not a whole lot to speak of. We're not going to waste our time. Let's go down to the bottom here. Are they better than the Cubs? No. Are they better than the Royals? I lean no. Are they better than the Rays? No. Angels gets close. Tigers, I think they're right in this Angels-Tigers mix. I'll put them above the Angels, I think. At least often, or excuse me, the Pirates. Blech. Mixed up my teams there for a second there. Cruz. I think Cruz really elevates them. Pham, a nice veteran get for them. I just think the Angels are a solid team, but I don't think all their pieces ultimately work in the long run. Whereas the Pirates here, I think you're counting on, solid years, of course, from your veteran guys. But I think the engine of this team is really O'Neill, Cruz, and that pitching staff. Offensively, not even worried about the pitching staff or work or usage or anything like that. I think I've changed my mind. I've talked myself out of it. I'm going to go after the Angels. I'll put them after the Tigers, but before the Mariners. I think that's fairly accurate. All right, the next one here. The Padres. Pretty solid lineup overall, I will say that, even with the changes that they've undergone. Arise, Tatis, Merrill, Machado, Cronenworth, Bogarts. Iglesias, who they just signed today. One bit of news that I had not mentioned yet. 1 year, $3 million, I believe he got. Kind of takes that Kim role in this offense for them. Hayward and Diaz. Bench, Campusano, Joe, Rosario, and Wade. This is a really good lineup, I will say that. Better than the A's, certainly. Blue Jays, yes. Yankees, I would say yes. Red Sox, I lean yes. Astros, honestly, I'm leaning yes as well. Phillies, that's where it starts to get interesting. I think I put them after the Phillies. All right, Giants. They made some changes to their roster. Wade, Adames, Lee, Chapman, Ramos, Yastrzemski, Fitzgerald, Encarnacion, and Bailey, with a bench of Huff, Flores, Wisely, and Matos. Adames does really help elevate this offense from where it was last year. They're not a great offense, though. Are they better than the Tigers? I lean yes. Angels, yes. Royals and Rays. I think they're slightly better than the Rays. Royals, Bobby Witt versus. I think they're going to fit right in between these two teams, Royals and Guardians. All right. Only a couple left here. Cardinals, where do they rank? Wynn, Donovan, Contreras, Burleson, Arenado, Nootbaar, Walker, Gorman, and Herrera. Bench, Pajes, Baker, Sagassi, and Ciani. A young team. Got to see what this team really has. But entering 2025, this opening day roster would rank, I wouldn't say it's better than the Yankees. Twins are about right as far as a comp. Reds, I think, are in that same conversation. I would lean with Mason Wynn, what Donovan do, Contreras offensively. Kind of leaning right in this Twins range here. In fact, I think I'm after the Diamondbacks. No, I think I'm after the Twins. Now, could this offense be better than the Twins? Certainly. I'm expecting negative regression for them as they have struggled to stay healthy. But opening 2025, I'd probably give them the nod in pure talent. Meanwhile, the Cardinals don't necessarily have the experience yet to have that same kind of thought in my mind, at least. So I'd still put the Cardinals right there, 1A, 1B there. All right, and the final team here, the Washington Nationals. How do they stack up with their lineup? Abrams, Cruz, Wood, Lowe, Bell, Garcia, Ruiz, DeYoung, and Young. Bench, Adams, Tina, Rosario, and Call. A decent-ish bench, I guess you could call it. The lineup, the back half does leave a lot to be desired, but that top half looks really solid. Start at the bottom here. Better than all five of those bottom teams for sure. Are they better than the Tigers? I lean yes. Are they better than the Angels? I lean yes. Rays, bit more of a struggle, but I say yes. Royals, Bobby Witt. They're waiting on Cruz or Wood to establish himself on that level with those guys, but he's not there yet. Those guys aren't there yet. So, Bobby Witt in the Royals versus the Nationals. I'm going to put the Nationals after the Royals. So there's our rankings. Best lineup for 2025 opening day. The Dodgers, Orioles, Rangers, top 3. Mets, Braves conclude your top 5. Phillies, Padres, Astros, Red Sox, and Yankees are the rest of your top 10. Twins and the rest of the company just fall outside of that top 10 and so forth. Twins, Cardinals, D-backs, Blue Jays, Reds, Cubs, Brewers, A's, Guardians, Giants, Royals, Nats, Rays, Angels, Tigers, Pirates, Mariners, Rockies, Marlins, and White Sox. I think it's a fairly solid list there. What do you guys think? What would you guys change off of this list? Dodgers, the number 1 lineup. Orioles right behind them. Rangers, Mets, and Braves. I think that's a really strong top 5. I think the Yankees fall out of that top 5 because, again, no Soto, no Stanton, no solution over there at third base. A guy who's struggled the last couple of years, showing some decline anyway in Goldschmidt. And you don't bring in another impact bat. I think they fall out of that top 5 and go towards the back half of that top 10. But I think it's a very fair list here. There are some opportunities, of course, for teams to get better or worse. For instance, the Red Sox, I think, could have a much better lineup once we get to, say, June. But entering the season in 2025, I got to keep those rookies that I think could be on this team out. By the same token, I can't take into account the injuries yet. for Lewis and Correa. I have to count their lineup based on the pieces they have. Otherwise, the Twins, I think, would fall downward once they have those injuries accounted for. But I would say it's a pretty solid rank. You might change one or two spots. Like, I think a lot of these guys in this range right in here are very, very interchangeable. Almost all of them you could make an argument above or below, but based on the day of the week. I think the guys at the top, though, are fairly set in my mind. I think Dodgers are right there at the top. Orioles, Rangers, Mets, Braves. I think that's the top 5 for sure. I think the Phillies, Padres, Astros, Red Sox, and Yanks are very clearly the next 5. And then you get into kind of that group of guys that are all in between the rest. Overall, not a bad list. I'll save this list so we can kind of flip back to it in tomorrow's show when we do our starting pitcher ranks. And then Friday, we will do the bullpen ranks as well. If Langford and Young can push Texas to number 2, they do have some guys like that could give them some helium. Steven, after Judge, the Yankees don't have a single player who's a lock to hit 20 home runs. I'll give you that one. But I still think they're a solid offense just purely based on Aaron Judge. Even if it was just the Aaron Judge show, I think they're still better than the majority of these teams you see behind him. He is the aircraft carrier of aircraft carriers offensively in Major League Baseball. He is that good. That's why he keeps the Yankees in that top 10. Say they don't have Aaron Judge, that Yankees team, say he gets a big injury or, just like he had injuries in his past, if he misses a bunch of time, this is a team without Judge that probably plummets all the way past the Royals offensively based on what they currently have. I mean, he really props up that ranking quite a bit. All righty, appreciate you guys joining us. Again, tonight was the starting lineup rankings. We'll do the starting pitchers tomorrow, or starting rotations tomorrow, and then Friday we will do bullpens. We'll probably do prospect systems at some point the following week. But I want to leave a little bit of something for us to keep looking forward to as we gear up for opening day. Again, join us tomorrow night for MLB Hot Stove Daily to break down all the latest news, updates from around Major League Baseball to keep you guys up to date on every bit of news that you want to hear from your favorite team. So be sure to hit that like and subscribe on the video if you haven't already. Follow us on X at UpsideSN, on Facebook at Upside Sports Network. We'll have a couple more videos coming out for you today. Posted a couple basketball ones today. One based on the Dallas Mavericks organization's, or the organization continually kicking the Mavericks fan base repeatedly in the face for the past month. I encourage you guys to check out that one. I thought it was pretty funny, at least to start. And then we got a little bit into the Lakers and how they're now a title contender in the Western Conference with the addition of Luka a year ahead of what they even could have hoped for in their best daydreams. And they might even have a legitimate shot this year with LeBron and company still there. But posted those earlier today. I invite you guys to check those out. We'll have a couple more videos coming out tomorrow, so be sure to check those out as well. But once again, make sure you get that you hit that subscribe button and like the video. Liking the video is the single biggest way, aside from subscribing, to support this channel, along with those super chats you guys send us. And I want to thank you guys for doing all 3 of those things. Really does help us out quite a bit, and trying to get this channel to get back on the roll we were around the winter meetings. With kind of the dead zone of spring training, I understand how people are kind of drifting away from baseball, at least for a minute, now that spring training, the novelty is worn off already, and we're ready for spring training to be over and actual games to begin. I understand the casual fan might have stepped away for a minute, but let's get those guys back here as we gear up for the 2025 season. I'm excited about it, and I hope you guys are too. Again, we'll have a lot of changes coming to the channel. I encourage you guys to check out the video last night where we went into a little bit more depth about it, the last 2 nights actually, and we'll be having those changes headed your way. But appreciate you guys joining us tonight. We'll see you guys again tomorrow around 9 o'clock. So make sure you guys have a great day out there. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow night. Take care, everyone.